Welcome to this video, round 3 in Kantimansisk, the candidates, and this video is about the game between Topalov and Aronian. After 2 rounds, both players have got 50%, 1 out of 2, but while for Aronian it was a wild ride, losing the first round and winning the second, Topalov has played 2 draws, both not overly exciting, but certainly not a bad start in this tournament. So let's see what happened in this game. Topalov playing e4. He also can play d4, of course, very versatile, but it seems that he intended to put some pressure on Aronian's double king pawn. This is in fact I think remarkable about Aronian's repertoire, especially against e4. He really exclusively plays the double king pawn openings e4, e5, and there's not even some backup line, like let's say in 20% of the games he plays some Sicilian. I cannot really recall him playing as Sicilian or the French defense or anything. Maybe you find the odd blindfold game or something, but other than that, he's really playing e4, e5 exclusively. Okay, and he also played it in the first round against Arnold. Yeah, here Vichy went for h3, and would have been interesting to see what Aronian is doing now. Would he have repeated his pawn sack or played in a more conservative fashion? Yeah, it didn't materialize because Topalov played a4. Yeah, this is the other big anti-martial line. This is in fact the line that Kasparov has played most of his career. Kasparov, I believe, never allowed the original martial attack with c3, d5. He always played one of those anti-martials, and a4 was his principal choice. Yeah, b4 was played. This is nowadays the main line. In the early days of this variation, very often bishop b7 was played, but it was established that in a position type like that, the bishop on b7 is just looking at this pawn on e4, and it's not doing black much good really. b4 is the main move nowadays, and it is the main move by far. Here White has a very principled choice. He can play slowly with a move like d3, introducing the typical maneuvering game like this, or maybe regroup to the king side, or he can strike in the center immediately, and this is what Topalov did in this game. He played d4, and Aronian just responded with d6, keeping the center and not giving it up. Yeah, this pawn on b4 is of course bit of a, it has some pluses and it's got some minuses. One plus is it wins space on the queen side, controlling important squares. A3 and c3 are now controlled, so the knight, White's knight, cannot develop there. A disadvantage, of course, is that White gains control over the important c4 square. However, how is White going to use this square? That's not easy at all. In fact, it's very likely that Black will get so much pressure on White's center that you at one point are forced to take on e5. And in fact, this is what Topalov did exactly here. He exchanged and played knight bd2. Now we have a symmetrical position in the center, and White certainly would like to use the c4 square, possibly with this knight. Bishop c5 was played. Very logical, activating the bishop on a good diagonal. And this is in fact a very important feature of this position. While this pawn advance to b4 has weakened the queen side a bit, so white can use the c4 square, the c5 square is also firmly in black's control. He is active here. This is a good piece, and black does not have any direct weakness or point that white can attack easily. An important feature of the position is also that the pawn on b4 is always there to capture something to arrive on c3, which would open up the b file, probably for black's play. And with the pawn back on c2 and not on c3, black has the important knight d4 counterplay to get rid of the as often not so well placed knight on c6. Yeah, a funny thing is, and something absolutely relevant for this game, is that in the recent championship of Armenia, Aronian's home country, there was a game where the black player was Rand Melkumian, which is who is also an Armenian grandmaster. He's not so well known, but he is known to be one of one of Aronian's training partners and helpers. And in this game, the white player was a grandmaster called Terzahakian. There a5 was played, which I feel is a pretty logical decision. You fix the pawn on a6, so after bishop c4, queen e2, you have some pressure on this pawn. Quite logical move. This is what Topalov played, though. Also a move that serves a purpose. Black otherwise maybe would have gone for some activity on the king side. Here, after h3, Aronian played bishop b7, and now knight d4, getting this bishop actively involved and exchanging the somewhat obstructing knight on c6. Yeah, this was played, and here we have reached an interesting position early on. Look at the clock times. Both players have played rather quickly, so we're probably in preparation. And it's funny, this position also has been reached before in a game from 1986, rather old game, between Vladimir Jansa and Yuri Razuvayev from Russia. In this game, after queen f3, king h8 was played and they agreed to draw. Yeah, you would never know what was the background of this draw. It feels like a position that is somewhere between a very little something for white and equality. Black has got active pieces, but white also enjoys good activity for this bishop and has opportunities on the queen side. Queen f3 is actually a move that I do like. I like it better than what Topalov played, but it's not leading to anything great. The important thing is here that black has this pressure on the pawn on e4, so that white cannot easily move the knight on d2. And at some point, you need to develop your queen side, and you cannot do that at the moment. If you move the knight here, for example, black is just taking e4. And bishop c4 was Topalov's choice. The idea we'll see rather quickly. a5 and bishop d3. This was Topalov's idea. The bishop is routed back to d3, where it covers e4, so that actually quickly you can play knight f3, freeing up this bishop and attacking the bishop on d4. Yeah, and here black has a simple solution that Aronian is going for. He plays knight to c5, pressure on e4. And yeah, and asking white, what are you going to do next? This is also a good piece. Yeah, white decided to take this bishop. Takes on d4 and bishop f4. Now after rook e8 we see that black's idea was to give up the bishop pair, but to have excellent pressure on the central pawn. In fact, yeah, white needs to play very directly here, otherwise he would just lose it for no compensation. He played queen to h5 and Aronian played queen e7. This was not the only move. He had alternatives, but queen e7 is a decent one, of course. Yeah, needed to cover the knight. It was attacked. Bishop e5, c6. This looks a bit awkward, but it's no problem. The point is that after bishop c4, black plays bishop a6. You don't want to play c6 and yeah, let your own bishop stay passive on b7 for the rest of the game. Of course, you want to play bishop a6 to exchange it. Yeah, and here white, in fact, has a tactical possibility. And Topalov went for that. It's not the only playable move. White also could have played differently. I don't like the exchange on a6. This should be rather comfortable for black. But white also could have played bishop a2, which maybe is even more interesting than what he played. It's hard to tell. The thing is that bishop d6, this is what Topalov played, is a very direct move, obviously. The takes here, here, and yeah, well, the queen needs to take. After which, check. White takes on f7. This was obviously the idea, to break through on f7. King f8. You go here, just take the rook. So king f8 and now e5. Yeah, and here we see that black only has one playable move. He cannot go to e7, for example, as white is going to play e6. And now the threat is rook e5 to f5. And this is absolutely not defensible for black. No, something like that. Let's say bishop here, take. Yeah, black cannot really take, as this pressure is too much. This is not a good king position as well, while this is hanging. Yeah. And black would resign here. It's just like that. In this position, black only has one move, and this is queen to d7, which he played, of course. Yeah, and here, maybe here is the point where white could have tried something else. He played e6, which is perfectly okay, but yeah, maybe bishop e8 taking immediately was the more fighting option, something like that, just grab on h7. But it's not very likely that white is coming anywhere near to pushing in this position. Black has quite good pieces, bishop here, knight here, and he has counterplay ideas, let's say, like that, for example, or d3 or b3. The d pawn is especially dangerous. I am not sure if white is maybe playing with fire if he takes on e8. He played e6. Yeah, queen, knight takes. Sorry, of course, the knight takes. Yeah, that's not much choice, of course. Black takes, and now he took the rook. After rook takes, queen h7. This is probably the position that Topalov had in mind when he played bishop d6. And it turns out that here it's very likely to be ending in a draw. Aronian played queen d5, a good centralizing move, but also a good attacking move in the long run. Black might play c5, bishop b7, or this one, with a possible attack on g2, under the right circumstances, of course. In general, black's pieces are working together, so it feels unlikely that white's assault, which is mostly based on the queen, just one, okay, a powerful piece, but just one piece in the attack, and that's really unlikely to succeed. Yeah, it continued with f4, which I believe is what white really should do. You need to get things going quickly to really make sure to make a draw. If you sort of make some indifferent moves, not doing much, it probably would backfire. With f4 and now f5, white gets utmost activity, and it's now one of those cases where you give it to a computer and it says 0, 0, 0. It seems to be a draw, and mostly it is due to perpetual checks. d2, the toughest move that Aronian also played, but after the check here, it's just a draw. King f7 and queen h5. They put this on the board and repeated 2 times, and then agreed a draw. Yeah, can white do anything more if than in this position? White can take with check, which is interesting. Rook takes. And what is white supposed to do now? You don't really have a check. Yeah, the queen cannot check, but white has a strong move here. You can just take here. Amazingly, can allow the queen promotion.
Check.
Because after that, queen e8 check leads to a perpetual. This is just a dead draw by checks. The important thing is that black cannot go to the d file.
Check.
Also cannot go here.
Check.
No, as white regains a piece, and it's just winning after that. Black really has no way to avoid the draw. After a couple of those checks, they agreed to a draw. So both players are on 50% after this game, which is of course not brilliant, but especially in case of Aronian, where he lost the first game, it's still a fair result with nothing being spoiled. You can just still fight for a win in this tournament. And of course you need to keep in mind the only thing really mattering is first place. Everything else in this tournament is basically worthless. You can argue a second place finish is probably connected with a plus score and some rating points there. That's fine, but the real thing, the only thing really counting, is a win in this tournament. And both players, Topalov and Aronian, they need, in the next 2 or 3 rounds, they need 1 or 2 wins. Otherwise it's probably going to be too little too late. All right, a very correct, I believe, game. If you check it with the computer, it absolutely has no substantial improvement available. I think they both played excellently well. All right, I hope you enjoyed this coverage. Please take note that on Sunday, the 16th, I'm sorry, there is no game in Khanty-Mansiysk. There's a rest day after 3 days of playing. Play will only continue on Monday, when I'll also be posting coverage for those games. Thanks for watching.